Welcome to the Banking After Hours series, a series co-produced with Backbase where we sit down with banking titans to get the sense of the future of banking and beyond. Today we're joined by Chris Shayan, the Chief Digital Officer of HDBank, a Vietnamese bank with over 3 decades of history, and of course, Rudy Duta, the Regional Vice President of ASEAN in Backbase, a banking engagement platform. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Now, of course, Vietnam is one of the most exciting and vibrant regions in Southeast Asia. So I think we'll be quite interested to know and kind of get a sense of how far along the banks in Vietnam are in their digital transformation journey. So why don't you help us paint a picture of that?
Banks in Vietnam are in different levels. It's not really easy to say like banks in Vietnam are like this.
It's not monolithic.
Yeah,
sense,
so some banks are pretty advanced. They have been starting the transformation, I think, since 2017 or maybe 18, 16. Some just recently started a year or two.
Right.
So it's quite different levels of maturity, different banks. But for example, during Techcombank we launched zero fee, or even in HDBank we converted zero fee, so we made whole banking free. So it wasn't really free, especially things was on digital, now it's free. So we can see like now our bank population reached to 75-76% bank population of the adults. So it's catching up, like versus like I think 5 years ago it was around only like 30-something%. So within 5 years it's been doubled, and despite credit is still 30% only, so it's a big room for credit. But in digital transformation itself, a lot of banks, they have started the journey, but some of them started early. But the interesting part is even the ones that started late, like just my own bank, HD, but we are catching up. Now we are like top 10 banks in terms of profit, and in terms of experience, we become number 7 banks in the market that provide the best digital experience. So I think the market is really good. It's just not really easy to say where is the whole banking, but everybody, I think right now, they have started investing a lot more on digital. And especially the view of digital is changed from technology now. It's just pure business. So for example, myself now, I'm not responsible for technology only. I'm responsible to deliver P&L. So especially the banks that move digital more into P&L, I think they are more serious into getting things done. And we can see acceleration there a lot more.
I think it's interesting because in the past, a digital role doesn't necessarily come with P&L. You just get to do all the cool stuff. Now it's like, hey, you gotta make some money too.
We don't do cool things anymore. We just make money.
You do important things now. Interesting stuff. And what's your sense like, really, like from your conversations with the banks in Vietnam? What kind of speeds are you seeing?
I think I completely echo what Chris said, right? There are 2 speeds that we have seen. There are some banks who are hyper aggressive, in terms of, and it's not that these are banks who are leading the path, but they are also fast followers, but they are hyper aggressive because they know that they have a lot of catching up to do. In all honesty, the bank where Chris was earlier, where we started our association with him, that bank was probably one of the banks which set the path, right? In terms of how should you look at digital transformation.
And then they saw Chris and they're like, we want to do it here.
Obviously, that happens. But so as I said, right, there are this one category of banks, and these banks need not be the top banks, right? There are some banks who are, the mid-tier, even smaller banks who are now really looking at digital as their means to go out and challenge the big banks in Vietnam, because they are never going to have the scale that, let's say, the government banks or the public banks, like a BIDV or an agri-bank are going to have, right? So that's one sector. The second one, and unfortunately, and that's where we find it a little bit disappointing, is that there are banks which are sitting with decent amount of assets, right? They have the wherewithal to take that leap, but those banks are going a little bit safeguarded. I mean, they are a little bit cautious in their approach, that should they really go all in, or they are just wait and watch a bit more. But the interesting thing that we have seen out of all the countries that we operate in ASEAN is that if there's one country which has really looked at platforms cutting across all lines of businesses, it's Vietnam. Whenever we are having discussions with banks in Vietnam, they are not looking at a very siloed approach. They're not saying, okay, Backbase, you come in and solve, let's say, only my retail onboarding problem, or you come in and solve my lending problem. Even smaller banks are looking at things more holistically, saying, I want my retail customers, I want my SME customers to operate on one single platform, right? And again, I think Techcombank had set the path for that earlier. So, and that's a category of banks, while they might not be the largest, where we are finding that right set of conversations with them. And then obviously there's the third, which is the big four, the big banks, the government-owned banks. Probably the most amount of money, the maximum wherewithal, but because they are regulated by the government, they have to move at a certain pace, right? They cannot go beyond what, but we see a lot of innovation happening there. You know, you look at McKinsey and BCG, they're literally entrenched in these banks, these four banks, helping them shape their roadmap, helping them shape how their next 3 to 5 years of digital vision should look like. So yeah, I mean, Vietnam is very active for us. We have grown there, Chris knows about it, we have grown there very well in the last 3 to 4 years. And yeah, I mean, it's probably still one of those countries which is going to be on our top priority for the next 3 to 5 years at least. Yeah.
It's definitely an interesting market, and I think, you know, for the big banks, of course, they have the intention to move forward, but it's a far larger beast to move, so it comes with its own set of challenges as well. And of course, with HDBank, I think you guys have a very ambitious goal. I think one of the things that your bank announced is that you want to be the most profitable bank by 2025. 2023 now, about I guess 2 years off. How close are you towards that goal, and how big of a role does digital technology play towards that goal?
We are quite far. We are at least 9 more banks need to catch. At least 9 more if we can maintain the position. So, there will be M&A as well. There will be some M&A happening soon. M&A of some smaller banks.
Fast track.
Yeah, exactly.
Quite a fair bit, I'm sure.
In terms of digital, we have actually very simple goals. Onboard as many as customers that we can. Make sure that they are on the platform, they transact on the platform, and get them to do more things on the app, and the things that they can do on the app, they go to the branches. So basically reduce the traffic at the branch, increase the quality of traffic at the branch, and increase the number of engaged users on the app, and acquire more new to Bank NTB as much as possible and retain them. These are the basic things that we need to do to make sure that we can increase our profit. So for example, as of end of October, the TOI of digital customers of HDBank is almost 3.4 times more than the last year, 3.4 TOI more. And that's because of exactly the same strategy, right? That because we just keep it very simple, just onboard customers as fast as we can. Right now our metric is around, I think, 7 minutes. We can full onboard a customer. At branch we do less than 6 minutes, 5 minutes, including the waiting for maker, checker, everything. And then get them on the app, and then we transact with them. So we have this journey planner. Our digital team, digital marketing team built a very great journey planner. So we have, for example, T0 all the way till 14, 21, T30, all the way to 60 days. What are we going to communicate with you? What product we want to push you? Or where do we want you to engage on what? So we have designed quite different journeys, yeah, exactly. And we have gone more and more. We do. It's become a little complicated. We have done a lot of macro segmentations as well. So that's a digital job, actually. Just make sure that we acquire, get them engaged, get them transact, and drive the ones that they want better quality product and more complicated one like bonds and things like that into the branch for mortgages. And the rest just keep them on the app and get them to transact almost every 2-3 days. We don't expect our bank to be primary bank anymore. As I said, most of the bank's customers already have a bank, but we want them to transact with us. So even market share, portion of the pocket share, that would be good enough for us. But that's our goal, and the strategy has worked. As I said, by end of October, the TOI is 3.4x compared to the last year, which is really good. It's a very, very good growth that we have had. I guess we are lucky as well.
Luck, sweat, hard work, you know. Yeah, I guess we also noted an increase from your annual report there, right? It's also a 547% growth of your e-banking transactions.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
It's pretty good stuff, you know. Congratulations. And you would attribute a lot of that to the simple, basic stuff that you mentioned earlier.
So one thing, the first day I joined the bank, I wrote an article. That article that I published internally was there is no digital banking, there is only banking. Because I do have this strong view that there is no traditional banking versus digital banking. Digital banking is just the upgrade of the way we work. So the growth of digital part of HDBank is mainly because of the bank, because branches are more productive, branch employees are more motivated. We don't leave the branch as it is. Actually, I go to branches once or twice every month. I sit there, talk to customers, talk to our employees, frontline staff. We have a campaign internally that our frontline staff, they send a feature of video that a competitor app has or a customer like that we don't have, and then we have this gift. So I think the success is primarily coming from that. The whole bank is behind our digital, not just digital banking as a division or whatever we call it. So I'm fundamentally against that view of traditional versus digital, and that's why I think we grow very well, because I think one of the things that I'm very proud is all of us as a bank now, we are very committed to our app. And that if you talk to anybody in HDBank now, they are so motivated by growth of our app. And I should publish publicly all the results all the time, how the app is going. Almost every week or every 2 weeks, I share the numbers internally. And a lot of employees, frontline staff are becoming more and more engaged in it. And right now, we just, I think by end of this year, we will double that number of growth.
Okay.
And
for the larger banks, for the medium-sized banks, for this variety of banks, what is the best approach towards modernizing the bank, you think?
Okay, so I might have a little bit of a biased view on that, and
Surely.
select Backbase.
No, that's the end state, obviously.
Interview done, I guess.
But I think this is a topic very close to my heart, and Chris also knows this. It's about when banks are looking at modernizing their, let's say, for the lack of better term, let's say their digital infrastructure, right? What is the fundamental way that they are approaching this problem? Number one, are they really trying to just replace an as-is with a to-be with just a technology refresh? Then that is not really modernization, right? Because if you're not rethinking your journeys, if you're not reimagining the journey, exactly. So that's the first challenge that we feel, that a lot of times banks, even in Vietnam, are looking at what we call as feature parity. And that's not the right way to start modernization initiatives, right? So banks really need to take a step back and really understand which are those journeys, which are those life moments that really make sense to my customer base. And really let's focus on making them better rather than trying to do everything at one go. So that's the first thing. What we really hate are those RFPs with 200 line items that we need this, right? But that's off the record. But so that's one. The second thing is, even after a bank has decided what they want to go after, it's the how, right? And that is where, and this is becoming more and more, I think more and more prevalent in the last 3 years, where CTOs, CIOs have this propensity to say that I will build all of it, right? Now, nowhere are we saying that don't build. Build is good. But what is it that you're building, right? Because if you really look at a customer journey, there is the journey itself, which is what the customer sees and experiences. And that's not just on the app, right? That's also in the branch, the contact center, what the customer feels and touches with the bank. And then there's a whole host of things which the customer doesn't see, like security, for instance, like setting up limits, for instance. Like these are hygiene, these are industrialized things. At times where I've seen banks are, in our lens, making that mistake that they're trying to build that entire thing. We really need to stop reinventing the wheel, look at platforms like Backbase for those industrialized pieces, like accounts, payments, transactions, security, name it, right? And start building things which are differentiating. I know that is something Chris has been doing for a long time, and he has done that with Backbase as well. And that, according to us, is the perfect recipe for success, that buy or adopt and build. And that has been the biggest, and a lot of times people ask me, who is your biggest competition? For us, the competition is the bank itself, where banks are trying to say that I'll build this all on my own. And more often than not, results have shown that that is not the right approach. You have to choose your battles and build what is really going to help you differentiate. So I think going back to your question, Vincent, in terms of the right approach towards modernization, the what and the how are very important. You cannot fight a battle trying to replace the entire thing. You have to be very focused, that's the what. And the how also, in terms of, Michael Porter said that, right? That strategy is not about choosing what to do. Strategy is about choosing what not to do. And that is what we are trying to tell banks. Chris and I talk a lot offline on this as well. And if you read his blogs on LinkedIn, he has given some good nuances around that. So I think that's all that we want to say, that choose your battles, don't reinvent the wheel, and really differentiate where it matters and build there.
I guess that's something that you resonate with as well, right? Do you have
totally
anything
agree.
to add to that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I totally agree. I think it's quite important banks to make decision what are they trying to achieve. Because if the game is just like what Rudy said, just to upgrade the infrastructure, then I think no need to spend that much money.
Absolutely.
Right.
Just save your effort. Doesn't worth it, you will not get better results. But customer-led journey is the most important thing. But in the same time, I also understand that we need to do platformization, we need to do platform ops, all those things needs to happen too. But it's important not to become technology-led. Right? It's quite important. Like feature parity is something that I suffer every day. Right? Like we had this 200, we need 200, or why you have 10 more or less. Right? So those are things that banks they really need to clarify with themselves what they want to achieve. But this journey is like I think what we did, the way we architected with Backbase during Techcombank was I found it really good architecture. Like leave the Backbase for a lot of work that like the whole identity, right? Like it's painful process, man, to build that, right? Like and it's risky. You put the bank reputation in risk, right?
And your career possibly as well.
Yeah, most likely. And at the end is like, you can do it, but the question is not about ability. The question is about why do you need to spend that much time? So instead of investing that much of resources on this, why not invest in building a journey that separates you from the market and you make money out of that, right? Building a new identity or new authorization or new token converter does not separate you in the market, frankly. What separates you is like, for example, now you have a journey on the app that no one else have that journey. That helps you to onboard customer like 10 minutes faster than anybody else in the market. That's right. That's what matters. And that's where I think banks should put the resources on. Right, and use and I'm also against buying everything, right? So you on that architecture you can buy adapters and accelerators, and I think that's where we used Backbase a lot as the SDKs of Backbase, a lot as accelerator. But we took control of all the journeys ourselves. But all the accelerated Backbase offered, we use it all, right? But the journey, we control the journey, and all these platform things that every bank needs it. We just don't spend resources there. I save the effort and save the risk for the banks as well. Don't create too much risk.
I guess just like in life, right? You gotta pick your battles.
That's right.
So maybe let's take a step back as we close off this interview and kind of talk about where you guys see the overall banking trends in Vietnam head towards. What are some of the exciting things that you are seeing on the horizon of the Vietnam banking space?
Okay. Yeah. So again, my lens would be more on the technology and the digital side of things. Well, Chris can definitely give a broader perspective. One of the things that I'm seeing in Vietnam, and that's possibly the step in the right direction, is that, and this goes back to a larger theme that we're seeing all across Asia, is banks are realizing the fact that for them to meet changing customer needs and demands, obviously they need to be agile, but the way to reach that agility is from a technology side, reducing the dependency on the system of records or the core banking systems, abstracting them as much as possible, and use core banking systems as a system of record, as the name says, right? Your channel engagement, your digital engagement rules need to come out of that, right? And I think banks in Vietnam have started realizing that. So you would see less and less of banks going into what was called as core banking replacement, right? And more banks saying, okay, let the core run. If it's working, right? And spend your focus, time, effort on things that are outside there, which really matters. So like a two-speed architecture, right? So I think that's something that I'm seeing very well in Vietnam. Second, going back to business drivers, I think as Chris mentioned, lending or credit is becoming definitely a very big area of interest, not just for banks, but even non-banking, smaller institutions which are into pure credit, right? Some of them have not done it in the best way possible, but that also gives a huge opportunity for people to fix it and do it in the right way. So the entire game around lending, straight through processing there, getting personal loans, auto loans in a quick, and even SME loans for that matter, in a quick manner, in a seamless manner, in a manner which is visible for the customers through a track and trace, is a huge opportunity that we see in Vietnam. Obviously, the last piece is where we spoke about, right? The banks are trying to bring all their different personas, different lines of business slowly onto one single horizontal platform. And I think that's the other piece that we see. So Vietnam is probably, with respect to, let's say, Thailand, where we are sitting right now, slightly behind. But then with the hyper-aggressive nature of some of these banks that I spoke about earlier, they are going to catch up very, very soon is what I see. Yeah.
With some banks looking to double every year.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And when you have people like Chris at the helm of affairs, it's going to just go on and on, right?
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to observe the speed of change over there. So Chris, what are you excited about? What are some big trends that you're seeing?
So one of the things that I'm quite happy to see banks in Vietnam doing is investment on people. And we, like even HDBank ourselves, like we have bought Plura site for everybody. And people that are being assessed, learning, the upskilling themselves, and we can see the trends is going up in our employees and their skills that they have. That's enable us for so many things. Like for example, we can have a conversation about customer journey. We can have a conversation about containerization. We can have a conversation about what is platform banking, right? If I compare this to 4 years ago, it was really hard. So right now it's easy to say we do macro front end, but when I was doing this in a bank, right, people were like, oh, this is too, even till now they accuse me I choose architecture that is too advanced, which is not really advanced. It's like 10 years ago architecture, but banks never did it, right? So they feel like this is very advanced, right? So but that is changing. People start realizing that, oh, these are things that is proven. There's nothing new about these things. It's just new because we didn't upgrade ourselves, right? So that's really interesting for me. The other part is, I think we shared about it as well, that banks are moving away from just technology view. They start looking at like, hey, okay, how much more money I'm gonna make? What's my time to market if I choose this? How fast I can launch this? What is gonna give me compared to my competitor? Because every bank is pushing so much on digitalization. So what am I gaining? And I am behind 4 years from another bank. So I need to catch that 4 years, and I need to go faster so that I can be faster than them so they don't catch me again. No point of I reach out where they are and then So it's going really well. I think that's good that people start changing their view into that. And the third part that I am personally very proud to see is more and more customer experience conversation is happening, but not as a theory of like customer experience doesn't mean just keep the customer happy. Like more of like, how do we serve the customer better? What are the self-service features we should put? How do we make sure? What do we measure? What metrics do we measure that help the customer to do what they want to do better? And those are stupid KPIs that number of pages customers in my app. What's the point? Why do you design a transfer journey that has 200 page view so that you can say, oh, I'm increasing my page views, right? So those things are really going away. People are like trying to, that's why we launched this one-click banking. Try to do things as fast as one click as possible. Even page views goes down, but it doesn't matter. As long as customer get the job done is better. So I think those are three things that I feel like banks in Vietnam are catching up on that, and I'm quite happy about it.
I think just to add, right, what I see, and this is probably the last piece, is that banks are measuring the return on equity much more, going back to what Chris said, right? How is technology impacting business? So technology has really become an enabler for business. IT will internally use it, run it, but it is always a business driver. And that measurement of ROE or ROI has become much more nuanced and focused over the last few years, and not just Vietnam, across the region, right? So I think
certainly we're also seeing a lot more nuance in the conversation.
Exactly.
People are looking at how fast can we onboard, how fast can we approve, how fast can we disperse. So certainly a shift in the way they think about things. But yeah, it's been really enlightening to learn about HDBank's journey and the progress in Vietnam, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you
for sharing your views and thoughts with us today.
Thank you for having us.